I think we will continue at the beginning our conversation about unity. Having the representatives of parliamentary clubs, the biggest parliamentary forces in Poland, hearing from the Minister Kuleba and Minister Rao how important political unity behind Ukraine has been and is still. My first question to all panelists is, how united is Poland behind Ukraine politically? So to what extent this line of the government is, I don't ask about whether it's like it or not, but it is supported. To what extent political forces in the parliament stand on Ukraine, not necessarily with the government, but stand on Ukraine. So there was a conversation, I think, that the common point of two ministers that unity should be goal-oriented. So what kind of goal unites political forces in the Polish parliament regarding Ukraine?
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. Maybe a small correction. I am a member of the European Parliament, but I work together with my club at Polish Parliament. Unity, it's very rightly stressed. Unity, it means strength. Unity, it means respect. Unity, it means power. In the debate with Russia, and especially with Putin, he doesn't care about anything else but power. And because of that, I do believe that such an unity between political parties, political group in Poland, the Polish parliament, would represent basic parties, basic political forces in our parliament. And we are of a similar opinion. A similar opinion, it means we should support by all means Ukraine. By all means, it means military, but also sanctions against aggressor, it's Russia, and services. Poland is a specially located country and especially involved because we are logistic hub. So it means from Poland and to Poland is a beginning or destination of any trips, including President Biden. He traveled to Ukraine from Poland. And also sanctions. This is something special because what we need is really sanctions to be painful for Russia, sanctions to be effective, and sanctions not to be violated. At the European level, this role of unity is very important. And Poland, what is my satisfaction to say, is within those political forces, agreements which makes very much pressure on how we follow all sanctions imposed by European Union, NATO, or together with America. So from this point of view, I do believe that our role is simply positive.
So I would like to ask Bogdan Klich, who's former defense minister. So thank you very much for joining us. Also in this capacity as an expert on defense policy. If we talk about Poland's role in assisting Ukraine, can you tell us what you think was done well and where actually Poland could do better?
I wouldn't like to begin with saying anything about what was done wrongly. I wanted to say that that we are united in supporting Ukraine because we understand very well that our security depends on independence of that country. And this is in Polish interest to support this country as strongly as possible. And it was a paradigm that we were attached to since the very beginning of our democracy and independence in 1989. So I do remember the second conference on the future of Polish-Ukrainian relationship that I had the pleasure to organize in Krakow in 1990. The beginning of 1993, it was the second one because the first one was here in Jabłonna. And the clear declaration of then the leadership of Poland and the leadership of Ukraine that there is a dependence between our securities, and it is necessary to look forward. So the roots are maybe not in Warsaw, maybe not in Kiev of our approach, but they are in Maison Lafitte. This is Jerzy Gredroich who formulated this idea. And this is the paradigm of Polish Eastern policy, and I hope that it will be continued, at least for my political group. It is one of the most crucial paradigm of the foreign and security policy. What was done well, mainly that Poland is a strategic hub to support politically and to support military Ukraine, because we play now the role of such a hub, transferring, you know, the main equipment necessary for, at the beginning, survival, and now success, victory of Ukraine.
So now I would like to invite the third member of the opposition forces in the Polish parliament before I go to our representative of parliamentary majority. I'm going to make the conversation a little bit more spicy, a bit, because this unity, you know, for the general public is boring. So I would like to ask Teofil Bartoszewski about, well, recent grain crisis between Poland and Ukraine. Because if we are united behind Ukraine, some people say that in all aspects this unity is actually strong enough. What would be your recommendation how this unity should be shaped, given the fact that not in all areas we can be united in the same way?
Well, I don't quite agree. We can be united, providing we are competent. The grain crisis showed utter and complete incompetence of this government. And therefore, it's not a question of unity, because now the government sees what my party saw last July. Last July, we put a draft law in Parliament to prevent exactly this outcome which happened, and it was ignored. Now the government says, actually, you were right, but we've wasted 9 months or 10 months. So no, we are united. Of course, we have different interests. All EU members have different economic interest, and we have a different economic interest with Ukraine, the biggest agricultural country in Europe, and therefore we have to think, because we do want Ukraine into the EU, but we have to think how to prepare it so we do not unbalance the whole agricultural market in the whole of Europe. The European Commission is equally guilty, because they said it doesn't matter that some millions of tons of grain and other agricultural products will reach Poland and Hungary and Slovakia and Romania, because if you take your EU as a whole, it does not change the balance of the market. Yes, maybe not in Spain and Portugal. And that is why that was a problem. But it's not a question of lack of unity. It's a question of preparing for the consequences of our actions. We were all for removing the customs duties for products from Ukraine. But we said, but prepare for that. And that was not done. But it's nothing to do with unity. It's to do with competence.
And now I would like to ask the representative of the parliamentary majority, are you happy with the level of unity the government and the majority in the parliament experience on Ukraine. What can be done more for Ukraine using, I think, if we are talking about politicians, which are not, particularly in the times when, elections are coming, are not interested in underlying unity. But Ukraine, it is the subject on which, first, the Polish public is ahead of the political leadership in this country, or political elites. So how you think about the quality of unity in the parliament on Ukrainian issue?
Thank you. Well, you invite a bunch of politicians. You hope they start argue, and here you are, a total disappointment. We need to start talking about domestic issues in order to start a little fight. Obviously, I don't agree with my colleague here when it comes to the grain crisis. In my perspective, it is the moment that we domestically took the matters into our own hands. We started solving the crisis. As long as we waited for the European Commission to intervene, it was a failure. But as I said, it is more of a domestic issue, not exactly connected with unity. It is natural that we're gonna have some contradictory opinions and issues with our neighbors, including Ukraine. But this doesn't mean that anything changes. So I must say that the fact that most parliamentary forces, at least all the big ones, are united, are on the same page when it comes to Ukraine is a good thing. It is reassuring, and it is really working. I may say from my experience, being a part of a few international delegations from the Committee of Foreign Affairs or joined with other committees, when we visit a country, both majority and minority in parliament, and we can show our interlocutors that we are united on this subject. Because other politicians, they usually know how polarized politics in Poland is. But if we can present a united, solid front on this issue, this is really meaningful. This really helps to convince our interlocutors in different countries that this isn't political, this isn't just a local issue, that this is an important one. But actually, I'm not surprised, because this is a matter of Poland's security and very existence. The future of Europe, the future of Europe's security is going to be decided in Ukraine. So helping Ukraine, being supportive and doing everything we can to end this war as quickly as possible is the only reasonable policy for Poland.
Okay, fine. Ukraine is not an issue in terms of Polish domestic, let's say. Belarus, no. But what about Russia? What should be the end game of the Polish policy towards Russia now? How we should think about our relations with Russia. So I would start with Teofil Bartoszewski, because this issue may be divided in two parts: Russia of today and Russia of the future. What kind of Russia would like to have and would like to deal with?
Well, I'm talking in realistic terms and not in a wishful thinking. At the moment, we are going to defeat Russia in Ukraine. Ukraine will become an independent sovereign state. And with Russia, we are going to enter a long period of the new Cold War, and we have to prepare for that. And this would be my suggestion if we talk about NATO later, my suggestion for that, because I do not foresee in any near future changed policy. As long as Russia and the majority of its citizens thinks that Russia should be an imperial power and it's taking in Ukraine what was hers, and what President Putin was telling the Western allies just before the war, that actually, part of Finland is Russian, Baltic states are Russian, large parts of Poland are Russian, and other states from Bessarabia, basically going to 1914 and not even 1945. This is completely unacceptable to us. And as long as Russia has this outlook, Russia will be our enemy. Let's not beat around the bush. Russia will be our enemy, and we have to prepare for it. Yes, theoretically, if you think historically, Russia under Prime Minister Struve, maybe Russia under the February Revolution, maybe even after February Revolution, Russia wanted to be an empire. So no, basically, I do not foresee in my lifetime that we are going to be friends with Russia. We have to stabilize a relationship, not have a state of war, but we are more, in my view, we are going to the long period of a second Cold War.
Radosław, Fogiel?
Well, we started with some historical remarks, but I'm not going into the old 1612 history. Right now, the situation is really clear. Russia needs to be defeated, needs to be put in place, and the only place to actually hold a conversation with current Russian leadership is the international tribunal in Hague. This is quite obvious, and of course no one knows what could happen if there will be a sort of coup and another Siłowik will grab power, or are we going to witness some sort of democratization of Russia? This is an open question. It may mean, I agree with Professor Bartoszewski, it may mean decades of a new Cold War, and we need to be prepared for this as well. But I can also imagine that in the future, Poland and the whole eastern flank may enjoy a civilized normal, I would say, normal relationships with Russia, but on the condition that Russia abandons its neo-imperialistic approach and abandons the idea of spheres of influence and things like that, and starts acting as an actor on the international stage that accepts the rules-based order.
Bogdan, Klich, how Civic Platform thinks about our future relations with Russia now?
It is necessary to analyze the strategic and operational goals of President Putin on the eve of the first and second invasion. I mean, first one in 2014 and the other one, this one. As for this analysis, I am pretty sure that President Putin, at the end of 2021, had two operational goals. It means that he wanted to destroy Ukraine as a viable state. By the way, he presented his concept of artificial statehood of Ukraine several years before, during the Bucharest summit, so it was nothing new. But he wanted, to undermine statehood of Ukraine, and it was his main operational goal then. And the other one, it was an extermination of the independent Ukrainian elite, at least elite. Now we see that he went further, that he is responsible also for extermination of a part of Ukrainian society. So not only those who led and are leading Ukraine, the Ukrainian sovereignty, responsible for that, but also those who are, let's say, ordinary citizens. And when we add to those two operational goals to other important for us, crucial for our strategic goals of President Putin, it means the destabilizing of Europe and paralyzing NATO. One could say that there is no return in a short and medium term perspective, horizon. There is no return to the policy with Russia as business as usual. I would repeat, what I wrote several times, just after the first invasion in 2014, we have to invent the new containment policy towards Russian Federation.
So now the Polish left, how Polish social democratic forces foresee relations with Russia now and perhaps in the future?
Okay, first what we should, I do believe, keep in mind that Russia will be existing. I don't mind if the new Russian Federation is a little bit smaller, but will be existing. The second, Russia will be our neighbor, partly direct, partly behind Ukraine and Belarus. The third, I am truly convinced that our dependability on Russian raw materials, especially crude oil, coal, and gas, will never come back to business as usual, as you said, Director. That decision is made. Russia lost these markets forever. And we are, as the Union, doing all possible efforts to make it decided forever. And the third very important aspect is, we as Poland will be always weaker than Russia in terms of military power. But we as a Union, European Union, we as a NATO, and we being simultaneously NATO and Union, and Polish army, which is growing, it will be quite reliable capacity to defend ourselves or to discourage Russia to invade us. This is the core of what we would like to achieve. And also, from this point of view, we should note that much has changed. Finland has joined the NATO. Finland joined the NATO, it means fact. St. Petersburg is almost blocked, because Baltic right now is NATO sea. I am a little bit even positively surprised that Putin was not able to block it. And it's a pity that some of our theoretically friends, as Hungary and Turkey, were blocking it. But it is my opinion. We should take a look in a positive way, having these three general aspects in mind. Thank you.
Wonderful. In the context of Russia, a few keywords were introduced, which will help me to introduce yet another topic of our conversation. So, containment. Bogdan Klich mentioned that the term. NATO. Bogusław Liberadzki mentioned that NATO would play an important role, and our investment in our own military capabilities. So this gives me a good starting point to ask Bogdan Klich as a first speaker in this part, because NATO summit in Vilnius is coming. NATO is shifting from its strategic thinking, from the concept of deterrence by punishment towards the concept of deterrence by denial. What we should expect from NATO first, and then from ourselves, to contribute to this shift, what we should do, how we should lead this shift. Bogdan Klich, the former defense minister of this country.
3 or 4 major factors will be crucial before and during this summit. First of all, it is to keep in mind that we have a new strategic concept that should be fulfilled, that should be implemented. That this is the first time after 1991 strategic concept that in the preamble of this crucial document, Russia is indicated as an immediate and direct threat towards the alliance. Yeah? This is more than only mentioning within the document, you know, this threat, when China, by the way, is described as a challenge, only a challenge for NATO as a family. So to implement this strategic concept, it is first. Secondly, to achieve all the, or to implement all the, to show that there is a process of implementation of other decisions taken during the Madrid summit, mainly new contingency plans that in fact should have been at that time and now should be even more defense plans, not only for the eastern flank of the alliance, but a new approach to contingency planning. I keep in mind, you know, this battle that together with my colleagues from Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia, we had with other colleagues in the year 2010, fighting for particular units to be designed for particular tasks within the contingency plans at that time. Now they have to be pointed out. It is necessary to have such clear contingency plans. And thirdly, it is to achieve this goal that was not introduced into any documents of the alliance, but presented by the Secretary General. It is reinforcement of NRF together with its new model. Absolutely crucial. Not only that we are moving from 40,000 to 300,000 of rapid reaction force, but also new tasks and new composition of those forces.
What should we do? What should we do? What NATO should do with a NATO-Russia Funding Act? With NATO-Russia Funding Act.
I hope that it disappeared, so that there will be no return to this document because this is outdated.
Radosław, Fogiel.
When it comes to the Funding Act, we should just, it is already dead, we should just bury it, I think. But obviously, we have the results of the Madrid summit, and we need to implement it. We need to make sure that the presence of allied troops will be significantly bigger than it is. But also, NATO has to adapt to the new security situation. And by that, I not only mean the full-scale war in Ukraine, which is crucial factor, but also what's going on and with Belarus becoming more and more just a proxy for Putin, becoming a carrier for Russian forces. And if the threats of placing nuclear missiles in Ukraine by Russia will become a fact, this will actually change our situation to be a country that has practically a border with Russia, although it is named still Belarus. So NATO has to be ready for that. I would also say, and I would expect Vilnius summit to end up with a decision that spending 2% GDP on defense is a starting point, not something that we should try, not a goal that we try to achieve, but a starting point. We need to be ready for a maybe a long-lasting Cold War. We need to renew our capabilities. We need to also implement and all the infrastructural solutions that right now end somewhere in the middle of Germany, because they weren't updated after NATO expansion, and also the NATO perspective for Ukraine. I don't believe the allies would agree, and no one actually does on that in Vilnius. But we made some sort of a decision in Bucharest in 2008. It wasn't a successful summit, but we had this open doors policy. We were scared by Putin's speech in Munich in 2007. What we got as a reward: Georgia 2008, Crimea 2014, and Ukraine again 2022. So we need to change this policy. We need to focus on deterrence and resilience, and we need to draw a clear path and make a very, very vocal political decision in Vilnius about Ukraine's future in NATO.
Wonderful. I would supplement this question by kind of the half sentence. What Poland's role should be in NATO, how we should behave within the alliance to achieve what we want generally.
Well, we should do what we began doing. It's what I expect from the Vilnius summit is, first of all, put this informal act of 1997 on a funeral pyre because it's long overdue. Secondly, make a decision that the NATO forces, which are on the eastern flank, in the units of the size of battalions, should be moved into brigades. Thirdly, because of what Senator Klich was saying correctly, I mean, what I meant Cold War means also containment, and containment means deterrence. If you have no deterrence, you cannot contain anybody. And deterrence means to create, within 3 years from the Vilnius summit, 30 battle-ready brigades. Battle-ready, not for
paper ready.
City, yeah, and within a foreseeable future, create 100 brigades, which means 300,000 soldiers, which are ready to contain and detain, to stop the Russians move like it was in the Cold War. Also, what is in the Polish interest is, of course, go back to the situation of 2008 at Bucharest summit, where President George W. Bush was willing to put Ukraine and Georgia on a map, in other words, a membership action plan, which was strongly opposed by 2 NATO members. And now is the time to revisit this, that we should put at least Ukraine on a map. Because it's in our interest. What Poland can do, Poland has to do what we've decided in Parliament unanimously, voting for increasing the spending on armed forces and increasing the size of armed forces and increasing purchases. We can argue if this purchase or that purchase is more sensible or less sensible, but that's a different discussion. But the general direction is correct. We cannot depend on the United States of America coming to our rescue if we do not fight for ourselves like the Ukrainians do now. If the Ukrainians collapsed within 2 weeks, there would be no Ukraine because nobody would have helped. The fact that Ukraine fought now makes it a possible viable NATO member.
The same question to Bogusław Liberadzki, how Poland should actually contribute to NATO's deterrence, and what's your expectation or your political force you represent from NATO Vilnius summit?
Okay, maybe 2 general points. First, Poland should or deserves to be treated fairly because during NATO intervention in Iraq, we were present despite of many accusations in Western Europe. The second, what is important, Putin made NATO stronger. If Putin waits 1, 2, 3 years longer, it would mean that Russia will be stronger, Ukraine will be still in such an langsam changes, and not discussion even about Ukrainian membership. So this failure, as Mr. Bartoszewski said, after 2 weeks, Russia was not able to defeat Ukraine, and today Ukraine has a chance to win. It means that we should present ourselves, this part of Europe, as, first of all, oriented toward keeping order, keeping peace, bringing Russia very much reduced in terms of its capacity, maybe even size. And also, forever, or for at least for a long-lasting time, Russians should forget about their imperialism. Russia should be maximum treated as a local power, not global imperialistic power. Plus, what is important for us is to contribute NATO into forgetting about that peace is granted, nobody is going to attack us, NATO is artificial structure, NATO is really fundamental structure. Also, we should remember that we are, for time being, focused on Ukraine, Russia. Okay, Indian Ocean, China, Taiwan, and we should put pressure on solving this Ukrainian war as soon as possible to avoid the situation that NATO's forces should be located in 2 very crucial parts. Thank you.
Yes, and now the time is ripe to mention another our neighbor. Poland played during the last year the role of both unity broker and unity breaker. Part of these Polish activities also, produced cost, political cost, both particularly in Polish-German relations. German policy during the last year has not been particularly popular among the Polish public. So this kind of the conversation about the Polish policy in the future and the Polish, approach to our neighbors would not be completed without the answer, without the question about Polish-German relations. How we should shape this Polish-German relations in the future. So I would like Radosław Fogiel to start this turn of answers.
Well, Germany is our neighbor. It is our biggest, or one of the biggest trade partners. So this inevitably has an impact on our relations, and this will not change. Although there are other dimensions of that relationships that can be different on time. Obviously, there are some historical issues that need to be solved, and the whole parliament adopted a resolution about the reparations for the wartime losses, and this discussion with our neighbor will be going on. I strongly believe it will take time, but it will be successful in the end. This is a matter of a simple justice and naming things by their name. But this is an ongoing discussion, and linking it to the current politics, especially security politics, would be a mistake. We appreciate the Zeitenwende policy that was presented by Chancellor Scholz. We we are looking forward fully implementing this Wende, this change into German policy. Of course, it was quite obvious that that the idea of being an economic broker for the Europe-Russia trade, that was Germany's idea for some time, was a grave mistake, and it wasn't only Poland; it was the Baltic states, it was other countries of the region that tried to warn our Western allies about the dangers of Nord Streams 1 and 2, and so on and so on. The good thing is that, at least verbally, those mistakes are understood. I would hope that the pace of sending armaments to Ukraine would increase. We needed some push when it comes to Leopards. I hope this will give us the needed traction for the future. The recent visit of President Zelensky in Berlin may be crucial in that matter. We'll live, we'll see.
The information for the audience, I'm going to take 3 questions from the audience in the end of this conversation. Now, Bogusław Liberadzki, what should we think about our future relations with Germany? How we should improve or develop this relationship?
First, we should stop spoiling these relations. Second, I ask my colleagues at the European Parliament, SPD, but also CDU, what is their reaction to this information coming from Polish government saying dictatorship and so on and so on? You know what they answered? What made me very, very sad. They said, we ignore it. I would like to have, we accept it, or we do not accept it, but being ignored is something very unpleasant. It's first. The second, this is right now kind of a tendency of saying that Germany should lead and should not lead the European Union. It's absolutely not true. Germany is not talking about leading the European Union. Even take a look, Ursula von der Leyen as President of the European Commission. Within Spitzenkandidaten, we had somebody very different. And because of Polish government protest, we have Ursula von der Leyen. It seems to be very clear. So, for future, they are in the European Union, 5 leading countries: Germany, France, Italy, Spain, Poland. There is more than 50% of seats at the European Parliament. And I wish to have my country playing the game within this top 5, because this room, there's a 5th, was left free due to Brexit. And in future, we should go together. We should avoid the situation being ignored, and finally maybe to be treated as. And one more comment on this margin, because time is coming out. Lastly, it was a big discussion about unity of the European Union and classified majority in voting. Take a look. If there is possibility to vote in classified majority, 10 packages.
Qualified majority.
But European Parliament, but also Council. Yeah. Council, not Parliament. These 10 packages should be implemented more effectively and swiftly. Because whom we had as an opposing, even up to date, buying ammunition, it's Hungary. Because there is friendly relation between Orban, by the way, beloved, some months ago, our partner, who always says, no, no, no. If we have classified majority.
For the record, Chancellor Scholz, in his speech in the Prague last year, actually made the claim that Germany wants to lead European Union. So now the floor goes to Bogdan Klich.
I don't want to avoid to answer your question concerning our approach to Germany, but I'd like to introduce during this last round the issue of the European Union, and I will use your question as the way to introduce this issue.
Sure.
Crucial for our security, crucial for our maybe not so much hard security, but at least soft security of Poland. This is the table with 4 legs. It is much better to have 4 legs than 3 legs, or 3 legs than 2 legs, or 2 legs instead of 2 legs, only 1 leg. For years, our security table, or better, external security table was based on 3 legs. I mean, the United States, NATO, and the European Union, especially after the Lisbon Treaty, with all those devices that were introduced into the acquis communautaire. So from that point of view, let's not forget that together with Germany, we should take care of the future of the European Union's ability to act. If we ask ourselves about the sphere the spheres of this activity, I am pretty sure that there is and there will be in the future the division of labor between NATO and the European Union concerning military challenges. And when NATO will be concentrated on collective defense because of the Russian threat and because of out-of-area fatigue after especially Afghanistan. So the European Union will be more concentrated, and the strategic concept speaks about that on crisis management possible operations. Civilian, military, or both military-civilian operations. And this is the role of the European Union that I can imagine in the short and medium-term future. That's why we should also invest into the progress of the European Union capabilities. So from that point of view, there is a difference between the ruling majority right now and the opposition, at least my party, that would like to see the European Union more effective.
Teofil Bartoszewski.
Well, there's no Europe without Germany, let's be real. Germany is the 4th biggest economy in the world, although the Indians will probably overcome within 2 years and be the 3rd. Germany is the biggest trading partner for Poland, but Poland is the 5th largest business partner for Germany. What is missing is the political element, because the Germans, despite the fact that the Russian Federation is in terms of trade with Germany, is now, especially after the sanctions, is irrelevant, it's minute. Russia is playing a much bigger role in the political mind of the Germans than Poland. We have to work on that, because we have to, together with the Americans and the Germans, we have a great role to play in Europe, because we, thanks to the behavior of the population of Poland and also regional governments and also the Polish government, we moved up in terms of appreciation on the eastern flank of NATO, and we in a sense do represent them, which never did before, because they accept that we are kind of leader in that flag. And together with the Germans, we should reshape also the European Union. The way European Union works is far from perfect. What Chancellor Scholz proposed is not workable, because at least 10 out of 27 nation states says we will not do that, and you have to rewrite the treaties. Nobody has at the moment the stomach to do that. Also, the last person who tried to force a certain constitution, European constitution, that thick on the EU was Giscard d'Estaing, and he failed miserably in his own country, France. once. So we have to reform the Union, I fully agree, and we have to do it with the Germans. I also fully agree. We just need to know how to do it. Here, I would have a slightly different foreign policy than as represented by the current government, because there are various ways to skin a cat.
As promised, 3 questions, but be very, very brief. And please introduce yourself, and I'm going to take 3 questions altogether.
Thank you. Robert Stell, former Polish and NATO official. I was very heartened as a Pole with the quality of this debate and, frankly, with a lot of consensus on the key issues related particularly to Ukraine. Of course, the last part, there are differences now. But my question is about this. We heard also in previous parts of this excellent conference, lots of pats on the back, I think justified for Polish, support to Ukraine, the role Poland is playing. The question is, however, in view of many people, the consequential change when it comes to the position of both Poland and the region, Central Eastern Europe, has not changed that dramatically. My question is, do you consider that a big issue? And what is it that you can do together? Because you need consensus similar to the one that has been displayed when it comes to support to Ukraine. Thank you.
Okay. And the mic to the first row, please, and then to the 4th row. Third row.
Thank you very much. Konstantin Eget. My question is to the panel regarding maybe the inevitable consequences of the upcoming NATO summit in Vilnius, where Ukraine, as everyone thinks, will not get MAP, and it will be a kind of, not exactly return to Bucharest 2008, but something that will be still not sufficient for Ukrainians. What do you think the Polish political class and Polish leadership and Polish parliament could do with other, probably Central European allies, to kind of lift up and maintain the Ukrainian case concerning NATO, and probably what practical steps you think should be taken to advance Ukraine's membership, even if the invitation is not forthcoming in Vilnius?
And the last question from here.
Anton Lagwadi of The Economist. What happens if Donald Trump wins in 2024?
Perfect. So now, mark goes to the panelists, and you can choose the way. You can choose whatever you want. So there is opportunity for cherry picking from these questions.
Yes. I maybe take the second one. According to my understanding of recent developments within NATO, Ukraine doesn't need a membership action plan.
Yes.
It is not a necessary step to go further with integration of Ukraine with Euro-Atlantic community.
Finland and Sweden didn't have it.
Yeah. These are 2 good strategic examples that we shouldn't advocate for Ukrainian map as we did in the year 2008. Ukrainian membership in the alliance will be easier to be achieved without MAP, because MAP can be used also as a barrier, as an obstacle for Ukraine. That's why I would recommend, as we did, in the recent resolution of the Polish Senate, we didn't speak about MAP itself, but we recommended, to use the opportunity, this window of opportunity, and this way that Sweden and Finland used to go further with integration with the alliance.
Mr. Pszczel, thank you for this question. It's talking about new members from Central Eastern Europe. There is a big difference of interests. Let me mention about my personal experience. It was so-called mobility package. 1 week I received majority, and during voting we won. It means rejecting. 2 weeks later, I had 14 countries in favor. 2 weeks later, only 4. Everybody else was saying, okay, you know, but Germans approached me, French approached me. They are right, we can benefit from, and so on and so on. So, and also take a look what's ongoing even within our community of 4. It was Visegrad group. It's no longer existing, in fact. But talking about Ukraine and what you mentioned, I think that if we decide about Ukrainian membership in Union in 100% in favor, that's fine. But about road to the Union and how to contribute, we should decide it within a qualified majority. This is the core of discussion.
Teofil, Bartoszewski, if you could please to say a few words, what if Trump comes back?
I like Director, that you choose me for the difficult questions. Yes, it is a pity that the citizens of the free democratic Western world have no say in the choice of an American president, because we are all affected by the final result. Having said that, the Americans have a right. They are a sovereign country. They have a right to choose whoever they want. The good thing about the American system is there are certain checks and balances, and apart from the presidency, there's also the Congress and the Senate. And looking at the views of the congressmen and the senators in both parties, both Democrats and the Republicans, it is not at all clear to me that we are heading for a complete disaster if Mr. Trump wins the election, or Mr. DeSantis wins the election, or whoever else wins the election. Of course, we would like to have a president who is somewhat predictable and pro-Ukrainian, but we can't decide it. What we can is to make sure, and I think we do that, we make sure that we go to Washington and we talk to politicians of both parties, and there is even now a Republican group, get them on social media, called Republicans Against Trump. So there is an opposition to that policy, and let's hope that we manage to have something sensible at the end. But at the end of the day, it's not our choice. Even if the worst choice scenario happens, whatever that scenario may be, I think we will survive, because we have survived worse.
Radosław, Fogiel.
As a former spokesman, I don't like unanswered questions left hanging, but I also gained the ability to be brief, so I'll try. When it comes to the position of Poland and the whole region, I actually believe that this situation, this war, brought us together, gave us some solidarity, some trust, and this can be used in the future in order to leverage the region's position. So I'm quite positive. Ukraine, making the case for Ukraine and Ukraine in NATO for our region. Well, this is already happening. I think that the presidents of parliaments of the region of the B9 are working already on some sort of resolution regarding Ukraine membership in NATO. We need to make political pressure. We need to use our expertise from the times that we were trying to become NATO members. This includes also our diasporas in the US and other countries. Yeah, basically. The third question, well, if Trump wins, this will be the democratic decision of American people, as it will be in case of any other candidate. And we are here in Europe, we'll have to live with this US decision.
Ladies and gentlemen, let me join in thanking our distinguished panelists for elegant and very informative debate about Polish foreign policy and what is ahead of us in this regard in the future. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.